So it's a Monday. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Daily Space. Just a little soy sauce. Soy sauce is good. Welcome to Daily Space once again. I am producer Susie, and I'm here to put science in your brain. And I have a great script right here that I'm going to read you that is going to have lots of cool stuff, especially about some really big planets next to I'm sorry, my dog has opinions. I think he saw somebody doing something somewhere outside. I don't know. So, yes, Jake says hi. He is my co-pilot today. He's somewhere behind me in the other room. Yes, Bork alert. All right, let me get started reading this script, and we will try to make it slightly less of a Monday here. Once again, I have it on my iPad here. So apologies for me looking down while I'm reading, but I will try to look up and talk with you a little bit as I'm reading this. So today's news starts with an update on Pamela's favorite exoplanet, Kelt 9b. This hottest of hot Jupiters orbits a blue star, roughly an A0 or a B 9.5 star, that may be the largest and hottest star found to have a planet. Because Kelt star is so big and bright, we only have the ability to spot a very large planet in a very small orbit around it. The planet Kelt 9b is 2.9 times the mass of Jupiter, and it has an orbit 10% the size of Mercury's orbit, and it circles in under 1.5 days. It should also be tidally locked, such that the same face of the planet is always looking towards its star. This super hot star is able to heat the dayside surface of the super hot star is able to heat the dayside surface of this super close planet to 7,800 degrees Fahrenheit or 4,300 degrees Celsius. This temperature is cooler than the surface of our sun, but still hotter than the surface of many different stars. The everyday material that planets are made of aren't entirely solid at this kind of temperature, and this has significant effects on Kelt 9b's possible geology. Sorry, my son came in. In a new paper in the Astrophysical Journal, a multi-institutional research team has looked at how these kind of temperatures can break molecular bonds and how this heat drives atmospheric circulation. This paper, with first author Megan Mansfield, uses Spitzer Space Telescope data to look at how the planet's temperature varies around the world. According to the paper, the hotter the planet, the faster the heat redistribution. Put a different way, there are massive winds and other processes that drive heat away from the noon position on Kelt 9b. If there were no other effects at play, Kelt 9b's massive winds could reach speeds of 37 miles or 60 kilometers per second. Luckily, there are other factors at play. Some of that energy goes into breaking up molecules instead of generating winds. On the planet's day side, molecules with 2 hydrogen atoms are disassociated, and those individual atoms can only come back together if they make it to the world's other side, the night side. Since these atoms are the lightest of all atoms, collisions with more massive atoms can send them flying at massive escape velocities. So were we close enough to study it better, we might see material streaming out of this planet as gas driven from its atmosphere. Also driven into excited states are neutral and ionized iron and ionized titanium on the face of this planet. So Kelt 9b is a little less than 3 Jupiter masses in size, and it's puffed out to be roughly 2 Jupiter diameters. This massive size means this world isn't going to get blown apart anytime soon. But it's going to slowly shrink, and its host star, which is several solar masses in size, will eventually bloat up into a red giant and then consume whatever is left of this world. And what one of our favorite statements in this press release appears to be, the broiled planet will stay firmly categorized in the uninhabitable category. In case you hadn't already figured it out, our universe is a violent place where we can see star-eat planet and even star-eat star scenarios all across the sky. In new results from Kepler data that are published in the monthly notices of the Royal Astronomical Society, astronomers working with lead author R. Ridden Harper find that a hungry white dwarf star may be chowing down on a nearby brown dwarf. So brown dwarfs are odd objects that aren't quite planets and aren't really stars. With masses between 10 and 80 times the mass of Jupiter, some brown dwarfs will undergo short-lived nuclear burning of tritium, which is heavy hydrogen atoms with a surplus of neutrons. This particular brown dwarf orbits a white dwarf star so closely that the white dwarf's extreme galaxy tears material off the brown dwarf's surface. When the region around the white dwarf gets too bloated with material, that material can explode, creating a brilliant outburst we call a cataclysmic variable outburst. Only 100 systems of this particular combination, a white dwarf and a brown dwarf, are known. These outbursts are brief, and by luck, Kepler just happened to be looking at this system in the lead up to and during a 2016 event that is being classified as a super outburst. According to the press release, Kepler captured the entire event, observing a slow rise in brightness, followed by a rapid intensification. While the sudden brightening is predicted by theories, the cause of the slow start remains a mystery. Standard theories of accretion disk physics don't predict this phenomenon, which has subsequently been observed in two other dwarf nova super outbursts. So these two papers both use data from retired spacecraft, and they show us that even when a mission is retired, their freely available data are able to keep generating new science. The trick is, you had to have the mission to be able to get the data, to do the science. So the funding for Spitzer and Kepler and all other U.S. missions is determined by NASA. And as happens every year, mission teams are eagerly awaiting to see what kind of spending bill and policy directive comes out of the U.S. Congress. Funding bills are proposed by the President, rewritten by the House, and further edited by the Senate before they ever get passed. On Friday, the U.S. House of Representatives released H.R. 5666, a bill that takes everything the President and the Vice President planned and throws it down an airlock. So if passed, this bill will kill off the Artemis program's fast pass to the moon, as dictated by Vice President Pence, and will mandate NASA plans for Mars instead of the moon. It also relies on Boeing and the Space Launch System. The Commercial Spaceflight Federation issued a Sunday night statement. As written, the NASA authorization bill would not create a sustainable space exploration architecture and would instead set NASA up for failure by eliminating commercial participation and competition in key programs. As NASA and the White House have repeatedly stated, any sustainable space exploration effort must bring together the best of the government and commercial industry to achieve a safe and affordable 21st century space enterprise. So far, this is just a proposed bill. This is your friendly reminder that we have the ability to sway the opinions of our Congress critters. And if you want to see a different future from NASA, it's time to pick up your phone and make some calls. Dream big and dream sustainable. All right, so now let me read the little wall of text here. And let me switch over here to the chat so you guys can see each other talking. Yeah, let me read the wall of text and then go ahead and start putting your questions in. And remember to try to put that purple star in there. And Pamela's here to help answer questions, so I'll be able to read her answers on here as well. So feel free to chime in with all of your heavy-duty science questions today, because you don't have to just rely on my glancing knowledge from being science adjacent all the time. We have our actual astronomer here. So thank you all for listening. The Daily Space is produced by me, Susie Murph, and is a product of the Planetary Science Institute, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicating to exploring the solar system and beyond. We are here thanks to the generous contributions of people like you. Want to become a supporter of us? Join us at patreon.com/CosmoQuestX. And each live episode of Daily Space is archived over on YouTube. So if you miss a show here on twitch.tv, you can join us over at youtube.com/c/CosmoQuest. These episodes are edited and produced by me, Susie Murph, and this episode today should be up in just a little while this afternoon, just long enough for me to download, edit, and get it back uploaded again. So you'll be able to find this there this afternoon. And these things stay on Twitch about a week, so you also can watch them on Twitch there. All right, let's see if anybody has any questions. Remember, Dr. Pamela is in the chat, so if you have serious questions, especially about NASA stuff. When we went down to visit the Space Center, there was some heavy-duty propaganda, for the lack of a better phrase, about the Artemis program and the Space Launch System. So, yeah, this is going to be a bit of a fight in the House and the Senate. So, yeah, it's going to be a little crazy. So, yeah, look forward to even more fun in politics in the U.S. And for those of you that are watching, because I know we have quite a few of you that are watching outside of the U.S., I'm sorry for our politics. They happen, unfortunately. NASA is a political entity here in the U.S., so we kind of have to talk about it because it's major. And unfortunately, it affects a lot of science and how it's done. Okay, let me see. Am I seeing any questions from people here? Don't forget, if you are interested in helping support us, in addition to Patreon and donations here, you can also visit our Redbubble store and buy some really cool space-themed stuff like shirts and bags and pretty much anything that Redbubble can print. You can get some of our stuff printed on. So there is a link to the Redbubble store in the chat, as well as below here in the links that stay under our videos. And don't forget, if you like Daily Space and you don't always get to catch us live, but you want to catch us every day, you can visit us in podcast form. Our link is https://dailyspace.libsyn.com/RSS. Let's see. Veronica Cure says, is that planet oblong? The giant planet that is around Kelt 9b, or the brown dwarf around the white dwarf? If you can clarify that, I bet. Okay, Pamela's saying, Dr. Pamela Starstrider is saying, it's more teardrop shaped. Technically, it's filling its Roche lobe in some models. I don't know what Roche lobe is, but Dr. Pamela does. Veronica Cure might. Bad Panda Bear says, I noticed the Artemis marketing when I was down there in August. Yes, if you go down to visit the Cape, if you go down to visit Kennedy Space Center, there is a lot of Artemis marketing, and they've changed the videos and the script on the tour. So there's a lot of heavy-duty pushing of that in the promotions. I mean, some is good, some is a little creepy. Kennedy Space Center is still definitely worth a visit if you don't do anything else but go and see the beautiful Atlantis Space Shuttle exhibit. It's pretty awesome. Makes me cry every time I go in there. So it's definitely worth a visit. But yeah, our politics are making things a little interesting right now. Dr. Starstrider says, Roche lobe, the shape where the outer layer of the star matches the shape where the outermost is exactly balanced between being pulled by the planet and pulled by the star. Thank you. That makes more sense. See, I get all of my science through being science adjacent and picking up all this stuff. I do pick up a lot. Hey, we do well at trivia on Thursday nights. My group. My D&D group has now started playing trivia. But, yeah, I'm not the astronomer. Yes, science by osmosis, DPI 209, absolutely. I've always been a space geek. I've always enjoyed this stuff, and I try to soak things up like a sponge. But, yeah. But Dr. Pamela is the actual astronomer here. She's responding to Kevlar 1066. NASA contracts people. It doesn't actually build stuff. The question is, does Boeing have plans? I need to see if anything in SLS is reusable. Yeah, SLS, I don't know that it's a great design because it's basically a big design by committee to try to spread out as many government contracts among as many senators in as many states as possible. I can say that because I grew up in Alabama, and Senator Richard Shelby is part of the reason for all of this. He's the one who keeps Huntsville, Alabama going. So, yeah. It's not designed for reusability and sustainability so much as spreading out government contracts and trying to reward as many different states, and it is trying to give people jobs. I could say that. And I'm probably talking too much about this. Let's see. The only reusable that ULA is planning, United Launch Alliance, which is another one of these organizations that launches out of Kennedy. The only thing they're planning is the engine section of the Vulcan. See, I'm a bigger fan of these private industries that are trying to reuse as much of their rockets and as much of their hardware as possible. Because, I mean, come on. Number one, you don't have to build it again. So that's good use of resources. Number two, it's cheaper to use it if you're not having to build it again. I mean, there's multiple reasons to have reusable, sustainable stuff. There's less junk floating around in the ocean when you jettison it, or having to burn up in the atmosphere. DPI says SLS. Let's slap some old rocket parts together to make a huge rocket. Yeah. Star Strider says all the stuff we burn up in the atmosphere and drop into the ocean is lost resources. Yeah, absolutely. Veronica Cure says, I appreciate your input, Susie. I am in Washington, so I mainly hear Boeing's side locally. Yeah, I get that. My husband grew up in Huntsville. His father was a rocket scientist. He worked on the solid rocket boosters for the space shuttle. So while he's not a big fan, he basically got laid off during the Clinton years, and now he doesn't like talking about it, and he's old and cranky. Get off my lawn. I understand a little bit, and we have friends. Dr. Pamela and I have friends that are in Huntsville now. And so, yes, it's good to keep people in jobs, but what they're building is not necessarily the best thing that they could be building, or the most flexible thing they could be building, or, maybe the best ideas. Anytime you get these crazy ideas by committee and you start having politicians giving input on them instead of scientists and engineers, you're going to get something perhaps less than ideal. And while everything kind of has to be some sort of compromise, it's not always going to turn out great. Veronica Cure, yeah, and I am speaking completely for myself here. I know Dr. Pamela would probably have additional opinions. I'm just giving my perspective just from having grown up in the state with Huntsville and Marshall Space Flight Center and Redstone Arsenal and a super powerful senator who goes in stomping his way through Congress demanding that his state get stuff. Yeah, that's what happens. SpaceX's plans seem to serve space more. Veronica Cure says, I agree. Michael T. Meyer said, I think the engineers would always want to build the best they can. And I agree with that, as the wife, the daughter-in-law, and the mother now of an engineer. The ones I know, yes, they always want to build what's best. Unfortunately, they're not always the ones in charge of what they're building, which is very frustrating. My husband's a software engineer, and he just has that in his day job. And it's very frustrating when people that are not engineers are trying to tell you how to build your stuff. Yes, sadly, everyone has a boss, Veronica Kerr. You're correct. So yeah, there's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of things not being optimal designs. But like we said, this is just a proposed bill. This is not going to get passed, I don't think, the way it is. It's going to have to be dealt with a lot. And it's just one of the fights going on in the U.S. Congress right now, and it's just one of the playing fields they're trying to tackle each other on. Yeah. So let's talk about fun stuff while that burns. Any questions about the cool planets that we talked about today? Not optimal, but nominal. Yes, you are correct, Broken Symmetry. Unfortunately, this is quite nominal. That's one of my favorite words to hear on a rocket launch day. Nominal. Means it's going as expected, the way it should be. Everything's going good. Paranor asks, has Betelgeuse blown up yet? I don't think so, Dr. Pamela. Has it blown up yet? We would know if it did, right? She says no. I think we would know if it did. I get the feeling that maybe all of our alerts on all of our phones would go off. And they'd be telling us all to go outside and look. Because you would be able to see it. You would be able to see something even in daylight, I think. Phil Plait, the bad astronomer, posted a nice photo, according to Starstrider. We love Phil Plait. He's great. If you're not reading him, you should. If y'all have the link, feel free to give it to me, and we'll post it here in the chat. If not, just go Google Phil Plait, bad astronomer, picture of Betelgeuse, and I'm sure you can find it. I know you were just trolling, Paranor, but it is a good question to ask every day. Has Betelgeuse blown up yet? It should be a meme by now. Does anybody else have any questions? Anything else going on while we've got our astronomer in the chat? And of course, she will be here tomorrow. I think it will be Dr. Pamela tomorrow. Usually she will be doing Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays now. I'll do Mondays. Annie will do Wednesdays. And Pamela will be here Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So that way you kind of know who you're getting. Now, we do occasionally fill in for each other given situations where one of us might not be available or sick, that kind of thing. We're going through everybody getting a little bit sick recently, so hopefully you won't see us switch up too much, but... And then if you're listening to the podcast version, a lot of times I jump in and record that. So that'll be slightly different days than this, but you'll get a podcast every day, which is good. Let's see. There's a website, sci-fi.com, on Sci-Fi Wire. Don't panic, Betelgeuse is almost certainly not about to explode. So that's Phil Plait's post. So definitely check out that link in the chat or go to Sci-Fi Wire and find it, because Phil does a good job of saying, everybody calm down. Let me explain what's really going on here. He's a good source for that. I'm just checking the chat to see if there's anything else. Well, all right. If there's not any more questions, I'm going to head. This migraine needs another cup of coffee. And I want to get everything out for all of you this afternoon. Get the blog post up, get the video edited, get everything out. We will be back tomorrow to bring more science to you. Once again, we're brought to you by the Planetary Science Institute, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicating to exploring the solar system and beyond. And if you want to help us out, you can give us bits, subscriptions. You can subscribe over on our YouTube channel. We only need about 50 or so more subscriptions and about 400 hours more video watch to be eligible for ad revenue, which is easy money for us. So if you feel like just leaving a stream of CosmoQuest videos running on your computer at any given time, please feel free to do so. And hit up all of your friends, family, relatives, any random Gmail account you might have access to. Feel free to go over and subscribe to our CosmoQuest account. I'm kind of shameless asking for this, but YouTube has specific numbers that you have to meet before you're eligible for it. But some ad revenue over there would definitely help us. We get it for Astronomy Cast, and that does help bump up things. So the more revenue we get, the more stuff we can bring you, the more cool things we can do and talk with you about. And so it all goes right back into supporting all of us doing science and telling you about it. Thank you once again for all of you that are supporters on Patreon. Once again, it's patreon.com/CosmoQuestX. You guys are going to get your blog post and your video here in a little while this afternoon, so thank you for all of your support. And yeah, everybody have a great day. And go outside and look and see if you see Betelgeuse blow up. It won't be blowing up, but you can look for it. It's pretty cool. All right. I'm going to go to my credit site, but I don't think my credits roll, so I'll cut it off pretty fast. But you guys have a great day. Dr. Pamela will be here to talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.